Hey, welcome back to another great RCWares video. Today we're going to take a look at a Zoeller product. This is a pretty unique product. There's a few other manufacturers that make these things, but this one is definitely pretty cool. So this is what is known as a water-powered backup sump pump system. So it is a backup pump system. It's not intended to be your primary sump pump, but this thing runs off of water power, so it makes it unique. So if you're in a situation where you're concerned about power outages affecting your sump pump, this product is going to be great as long as you've still got like a water supply, like if you're on city water where even if the power goes out, you've still got water. This could be a great solution for you to maintain your sump levels even in the event of an extended power outage. So this is the Zoeller 503-0007 for those of you that want to look this product up. There are a few different models on there. They have a low profile model where it is just a little bit shorter in case you've got a relatively shallow sump or require that shorter or lower profile, height restrictions, etc. And then they also offer them with some alarm units. So this is a just a simple sump alarm, and you can see with this particular unit you get this little float switch. This float switch right here controls your alarm, and then this big honker switch here is what controls the actual valve inside of the water delivery mechanism, or the little pump system that basically just goes to a venturi that's then going to pull the water out using the venturi action. It works similar to a jet pump if you've watched some of our jet pump videos where we've talked about jets. Alright, so installing these things is relatively easy. Basically, all you're going to have to do is mount it. So we have it hose clamped over here to a pump discharge pipe. This pump here is actually just our demo from out in the showroom. I figured it'd be kind of cool to show you how it actually mounts up to that discharge pipe. If you do find yourself in a situation where you've got an indoor sump with a lid, you are going to have to modify your lid to be able to install this unit, which is probably going to involve cutting some holes in it, or if your sump is deep enough, only one hole if you're lucky, and that would probably be a situation where you might consider the low profile if it doesn't entirely fit in there. These units do have to be installed, I believe, at least 6 inches off the bottom. They're really focused on keeping any sediment or debris out of this system because it just cannot handle any degree of sediment. The inlet, or where it actually gets its water supply, so we can see the power supply, that is a 3/4 inch NPT connection. There's a few things that I would recommend when you are installing that is, one, consider a sediment filter, just a very basic sediment filter. If you do occasionally have a little bit of sediment in your water supply, because the tight clearances in here, you're going to run into some problems if sediment starts to get in that little delivery system. Another thing to keep in mind is you might consider adding a valve, like a ball valve or a gate valve, so that you can actually turn off the water supply to this pump system if it were either A, to spring a leak, or B, to have some sort of catastrophic failure. That way you don't have to turn off the main water supply to the house in order to actually service this pump system. So that's just kind of a convenience thing more than anything. Oh, and then the final thing that you might consider adding is a backflow preventer. In some districts, you'll probably want to consult your local code with regard to whether that's actually required, but it is definitely recommended because, again, you're pumping sump water through this unit, which is mixing with fresh water to go out to your waste system. And so there is potential for contamination if something were to go wrong. So a backflow preventer is going to help keep any contamination from getting into your house and potentially tainting the water supply. So I think that it's pretty important to go ahead and consider just installing one of those to eliminate the risk. So let's talk a little bit about performance of this guy. Most of your typical sump pumps are not doing terribly high flow unless you're in a really troubled area. Your typical sump pump is probably doing anywhere from 15 to 35 gallons a minute, and this particular pump kind of falls right in the middle of that, being able to deliver upwards of 20 gallons per minute at peak pressures. So this system is very dependent on pressure. The amount of water pressure that you have in your home is going to directly relate to how much lift or head this pump can produce, as well as how much it's going to be able to flow. So keep that in mind. If you're in an area with low pressure, you might want to give us a call, consult us, and let us know what pressure you're dealing with, and we can figure out if it's going to be the right system for you. So these pumps are actually somewhat efficient in that for every 2 gallons of water removed from your sump basin, it's only going to be wasting about 1 gallon of water, which is all the more reason not to be using it all the time as a primary pump, but it's great in as a backup, and it's not going to waste a tremendous amount of water in exchange for saving your basement. So not a bad idea. All right, so as far as pressure, jumping back real quickly, so the recommended operating pressure range for these systems is 20 to 80 psi. So if you're somewhere in there, you're in the sweet spot, this might be a good option for you. Again, pressure does correlate with maximum head or lift capabilities, so make sure you double check on the performance at your pressure to verify if it's going to be a good fit for you. So the relatively small footprint of this unit, so you can see it doesn't take up a tremendous amount of space. It can be installed in as small as an 18-inch diameter sump pit that is at least 22 inches deep. That gives you enough room to get everything in the sump and not necessarily get hung up on anything. One thing I do want to point out though is this little tiny float switch here, which is part of the alarm system. We're going to go ahead and zoom up on that right quick so you can get a little better look. All right, so as I mentioned, we've got this little itty bitty float switch right here. I'm not terribly fond of the positioning of this little float switch. It's just a little reed float switch. I personally would probably rotate this at least 45 degrees, either this direction or that direction, just so that it's not so darn close to this other float switch. When we were playing with it earlier, we kind of had some issues with that other float switch kind of not wanting to go down super easily. Not to say that that would certainly happen if you didn't move it, but it's definitely something to be cautious of. The operation of these is pretty simple, and it would be pretty easy to just go ahead and rotate that out of the way so it's a non-issue. Okay, so we'll just walk you real quick through simple operation, how this thing works real quick. So this float switch, it is adjustable. These points can be raised or lowered. You want to be careful not to go too high or too far down. It's probably recommended to just leave them where they're at. But basically, so this float, as the water level goes up, will raise this, and then it's going to open a valve internally here and allow the water to flow through the system. As the water flows through the system up to here, it goes through a venturi, which creates suction on this line, and the water is sucked up your sump and off, away it goes. So it's pretty easy. One thing to keep in mind though that's kind of interesting about the installation is plumbing code does restrict your ability to tie this pipe in with this pipe. So they are going to have to exit your house separate pipes. So keep that in mind. That's one relatively big deal when you're dealing with water-powered sump pumps, is if this is in a basement of a 110-year-old house and you got a lot of walls and stuff to go through, it might not be the most feasible thing unless you're really creative. So just keep that in mind. That's the only one kind of negative thing other than how darn cool this thing is. So I think that's all I got for you guys. I hope you enjoyed the kind of the demonstration of what we've got here as far as the water-powered sump pump by Zoeller Pump Company. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more great content. We will be sure to catch you next time. All right, real quick, before we let you go, I forgot to mention this exact unit right here that we took out and demoed and showed off to you guys. We're gonna throw that in the bargain cave. If you haven't checked out the bargain cave, rcworks.com/clearance. That is where all the discount stuff, especially all the stuff we use in our YouTube videos, goes at discount prices, usually like cost or maybe even less. So make sure you jump in there on a regular basis. Always lots of good items. We'll catch you next time.